Good morning. Yeah, I know you didn't want standing stick to be the first thing you heard, but it's what I need. It's what I need. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? We have Combat Patrol issue number 10. Now, this one we get the Terminator Librarian, which if I'd have thought ahead, I could have pulled the model out ready to show you first thing, but I didn't, because that would require some level of brains on my part, and we all know I don't possess those in abundance. Have we got one up there? No, they're all Blade Guard and captains and stuff. So no, not at the moment. So we have issue 10. I'm going to get the noisy bit out of the way first. That's the noisy bit done. Okay. So today we get a new brush. We get an STC medium base brush from Citadel Colour. Citadel being the Games Workshop, but kind of parenting company. So I have had one of them before, and I've used it quite a lot. As you can see by there's a difference in colour tips. The one's nicely fresh and white, and one's well used now. So I do like them brushes. They're actually really useful. Because they're a synthetic brush, it works differently to a hairbrush. And I don't mean the type that you brush your hair with. I mean, you know what I mean by now, I hope. If not, pop it in the comments and I'll tell you. So we have a Librarian on a single sprue. Now, if memory serves, this one is a pain in the absolute backside to put together. But I've done it twice, so it should be doable. We do get a base with this one. I don't have to panic with that. So, Combat Patrol issue 10. Let's bring it closer so it's not glaring on it. Librarian in Terminator armor, which we will be building up. Tells us about the Ecclesiarchy, which is the humans and the kind of nuts, very, very, very religious, very much do as we say or we kill you type people. And we get special rules in this one. Now, again, we've gone through this. I don't have a big enough desk to run full battles or most of the little battles, in fairness. I'm just going to have a skip through to have a sneak peek, just so I can see how much it's going to want me to do in this one. Okay, so he wants me to use a Librarian and some other things. And it's going to almost run me through like a very, very one-sided full battle. Just let me pick the headphone up. Sorry, because it's decided to take a dive out of my ear. Okay, so I can deal with that. I can run a very one-sided battle. That's easy enough. So, issue 10 of Combat Patrol starts with how to build your Librarian. Go through the first sheet. So it starts with build, paint, read, tells you a little bit about the collecting and the Terminator model, and then tells you about the weapon abilities. And it gives us a scenario where your Librarian's got to fight his way through a lot. So much so that I don't actually think I have everything out that I would need to run it, which is not good, I know. So let's start with building the Librarian first, because that's the main reason we've collected this magazine. So we need parts 1 and part 3. Yeah, that makes sense to me too, honest. So part 1 is this ridiculously shaped section here, where it's got half of his back, half of his front, and one leg, and a lot of pieces of paper. It's a big, big one there. Can't miss that. So we shall put the Librarian together, cover the weapon special rules, and then we shall see what we're getting in the next 2 issues. Again, my dulcet tones are not cut out for law reading. I found that out the hard way by listening to myself read law, and it was painful. It was very painful. So I don't want to put you through that if I can help it. If you do want me to cover the law as a separate section, just leave me a comment and I'll collate all the law pieces together and I'll go through them. But as I think it's cruel and unusual torture and punishment, I'm not going to do it off my own volition. Yeah, that was a big word for me, wasn't it? I don't think I'll be able to use. I think that's the last of my brain cells used up for today now. Just to say that one word. So we clean up the bottom of your base, well, the bottom of that leg. Do we have any mold lines and nubby bits that are going to get in the way? Yes, we do. We always do. Mold lines in the most ridiculous of places and nubby connective bits in the most ridiculous of places. So we scratch all them off and we see how well he scrubs up, see if we can actually get him outside on the town or if he's just looking like some thug. Can we get him looking decent enough to introduce him to our parents type of thing? I don't think we can. It is me after all. Lazy mini painting. I don't put all effort in every time. There are various reasons for that. Not just me being lazy. It's just easier to say that than go in and explain it all every time. There would be a bit right there on. Right, where's my big cutters? I'm going to need my big cutters. And I'm going to need to snip you down a bit so I can get into that really small joint on there. There we go. Nicely sanded up. He's done. And the leg's done. So it says we turn this face down. We get this plug and there's a hole in his back there. It's a little bit higher than the hole you're thinking of, so no, he's not getting inserted that. And then you get the that bit, and you slide it into that little gap there. You may need something to force it in. If you've ever tried this before, you will understand. I mean, model building. I know some people would have had that thought, and that's just wrong. Don't have those thoughts about these things. These are tiny plastic models. Okay, so we have 2 legs. That's good. So part 1 and part 3. Don't know why you can't let the others and go 1 and 2. So now we've got the 1 and 3 section here. We need to clip out 5, 4, and 2. So 4 and 2 are essentially his shin guard, the shin plates. And 5 looks to be his head. Oh, I hate heads. I don't like doing heads. Heads are awkward. But we'll do 4 and 2 first. So 4 is his right shin and 2 is his left shin. Is that right? Yeah. I've just used the wrong snips. I've just used the wire cutters. They work, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with using wire cutters if that's what you've got. It's just that these are a little bit smaller and easier to maneuver. So I'll use the tiny ones as opposed to the great big dockers. But if that's all you've got, that's fine. Just try and make sure you can get ones with a nice flat back on them there. And they'll work just as fine, just as well. I hope everyone's having a good morning or evening or afternoon, wherever you are watching from. Have I got the comments up? I hope I've got the comments up. Yeah, okay. Also, it does get confusing sometimes if obviously I'm doing this and I don't know if anyone's actually watching, but I don't shut up. I still keep talking. So I don't know if that's a sign of madness or what. And I'm just labeling it off as, well, I've got to talk. I'm on YouTube. Somebody's actually sat out there going, nah, that guy's nuts. He's just sat there talking to himself. Well, I'm not. I've got viewers. I know I've got viewers because it tells me I've got viewers. And that's how I'm going to rationalise it to myself in my own head. I have to. I'm doing Little Plastic Soldiers at 40 years old. If I can't make sense of it in my head by now, then I should have given up 20 odd years ago. Why aren't you going on right? You're leaving a great whopping gap. I hate doing this, but the biggest pressure thing I've got is my jaw. It applies the greatest amount of pressure on the smallest point that I want it to, and ka-ching, it is now in. You don't want to bite it. I'm just pressure. Not advisable, but again, it works. And if it works, then you can't really argue. I mean, you can, but you've got the result done. So why? Why argue if it works? First cup of tea of the day. Now, yeah, I did literally get up, go out, go to get the magazine, come back. And now I'm extremely thirsty. Okay, I don't think I was supposed to find that in a brew, but never mind. And part number... Oh, no, that's a big nubbly bit. Another big nubbly bit. That's not good. Right, so part number 4. Take off any mold lines. Take off any sprue clipping residue. We'll see from there. I do like this new sculpt for the Librarian. I have a Dark Vengeance Librarian, a standard Primaris Librarian, 2 Phobos Librarians, and this, I believe, will make number 2 or 3 for Terminator Librarians. Yes, that sounds a little excessive. That's because that is a little excessive. I don't actually need 3 Terminator Librarians. At this moment in time, I only actually have 2 units of Terminators. I have Terminator Captains, I have Terminator Librarians, and they can't all go in the same squad. So, right. So we've got the head now, like stupid tiny head, and he's got essentially a bottle out of it. Good morning, Francois. Yes, I am early. When it comes to the combat patrol, I like to go get the magazine from my local newsagents, come back, and I set up straight away. So I get it covered, and everyone gets to see it as soon as I do. There is no delay on that. Then I'm doing it. You're seeing it as I'm doing it, as I've just bought it from the shop. So I like to try and keep it that way because, well, some people might be sat in work and have not had a chance to go out and get it yet, so they want to see it. Some people may be a few hours behind and not had a chance to go get it because it's not been delivered to their shop yet. So for any of those people and yourself who wishes to see, I try and get it up as quickly as possible. So that way I'm not keeping anyone waiting for it, and anyone who is expecting it can come back in and watch it later on if they want to. I really should start downloading my lives and like editing them, I know, but anyone who's watched this channel knows my thoughts on editing and how good I am at it, which is not very. I'm better at physical things than digital things. I'm not saying completely useless at digital. "20 hours of testing and you finally settled on." How are you doing cockpit glass? Because I know some of them you can actually put the little LDAR in the seated position. You can paint inside the cockpit and you can just leave the plastic clear. A la Storm Raven, for instance. Oh, this is going to be fun. Right. I'm just looking at how I'm putting this together. And that circular bit essentially just drops into that square bit and doesn't connect to anything because that pin goes through that little gap. Yeah, that looks clever, doesn't it? Oh, does it connect to something? Does it connect to something? Oh, it does. It has a pin there. So where's that pin go? No, that pin goes through the side. So how's it push fitting? Because that felt like a really snug fit. I mean, like a stupidly snug fit. Like it was push fitted without being push fitted. Oh, that was worrying. Right, have I just screwed that up now? Right, I'm supposed to put the back and the front on together, that's why. Where's his front? There's his front. This little section. So that bit slots into that little nubbly bit there, and they clamp round the body. Did you see? If I had brains, I would be dangerous. Good job I don't. Well, not as many as I think I have anyway. Clean up the bottom of that. And just where really tiny files become useful. So you can get in between details and take out little sprue burrs without damaging any of the little bumpy detail bits, which you're supposed to keep. Solid cockpits. That sucks. Yeah, I'm not overly keen on how something like that can dictate how you do the rest of your army. I'm not a big fan of that. You buy, so in your case, you've bought yourself a Tempest grav tank. Now that Tempest grav tank is dictated to you, rather than you choosing that. You now have to paint all the sections of your windows on every vehicle now, whether you wanted to or not in the first place, just because of one model which you've had to. I'm never a fan of that. This is primarily why I choose my own Space Marine chapter, because I don't like to follow theirs too much. There we go. He's gone in. That sounded like a lot more effort than I was putting in, didn't it? So yeah, I'd be tempted to try and find a cockpit somewhere online, and just cut it out, cut around the bars, put the cockpit in, and then just get some, like the plastic stuff off the top of food wrappers. Or I was going to get something for example, but it's absolutely full of stuff. They're quite hard, not hard, but it's still flexible, but floppy plastic sheets you can get in packaging. Cut it out of that and just kind of glue that in place. Be extra careful, wipe it all up. Should be all right. But then again, I like making things very hard on myself. Anyone with brains would do what you're doing and go, no, I'm just going to paint it. Get yourself a good blue, white combination if that's the route you wanted to go for a glass type look, or whatever colour glass or void shield you would want. All right, conversion's not an option. Oh well. Then, sadly, you are painting. And you are going to be painting over the clear plastic, which is a pain in the ass. Am I 15 minutes in? Yeah, I'm 15 minutes in, I can swear. Good. I have to check these things. Don't want YouTube pooping the nappy. But I swore before 15 minutes in the video. So I'm English. I swear more than 50, within 50 minutes of waking up. Usually at the thing that's waking me up. Oh, what? Yeah, no, the conversion's not available on that model. If it's made from dental plaster, that's supposed to be brilliant for casting pretty much anything, really. The detail you get out of dental plaster. It's just like the old metal models from Games Workshop. If it hits the deck, it don't survive. I mean, it's reasonably robust, but if you've managed to cast, yeah, as you said, the turret itself weighs over a pound. So it's like that. Yeah, that's if that entire model hits the floor, it's not going to survive, and you will be picking up pieces of plaster. However, if it doesn't hit the floor, it will look awesome, far better than the Forge World resin. That Forge World resin is awful, not only to work with, but to paint and to maintain. It is ridiculously fragile. Yet they'll still insist on doing things like small pipes like this on them Forge World resin models. Or am I thinking of fine cast? I might be thinking of fine casting. Either way is horrible. It's like that's just like, yeah, but because it's rock hard and bits are glued together, if it goes thunk, those glued bits go chink and remove themselves from the model. I think I've got a bit of a delay going on here. Yeah. Launch his hand. Luckily, I launched it into my other hand. So there we go. We have a Storm Bolter and his hand going with some strange little talisman hanging from his wrist. Because you can't get away from that. Even in the 41st millennium, you still have to be completely indoctrinated to silly little superstitions. Don't ask me why. Which one have I forgot to... No, I didn't. I thought I forgot to clip one off then from his axe. Now, I do like that axe. As far as a weapon goes that they've done recently, that axe is definitely one of the better sculpts. Right, okay. Let's scroll up. Make sure I am talking about the Tempest Graph tank. Let's have a look at this. Eldar Tempest Graph tank. Now, you will not be getting this Eldar grav tank with... Oh, it's that thing. Right. Right. Let's see if I can find a better image of it. Yeah, this is a bit of a monstrosity. In a good way. In a good way. Let's see if I can find an actual... Now, by the looks of it, I can only seem to find epic versions. But I am aware of this tank being available much early on and available to play in Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, right, okay. I'm not saying these are actually good, but just for everybody else who's watching who doesn't know, just as I was pretty sure, because most of them have the basic same chassis, but those are the grav tanks that Francois has been talking about. Now, those are the epic scale, so they're about that big. They're probably about the same size as the axe. However, if you put them into 40k, then you're scaling them up to about, what is it, about 10-11 inches long, Francois? Including from back of the engine to front of the turret. They are big beasties. Now, they are reasonably flat and nicely... So they look like they'll bounce. See, I have seen one, but I could only find pictures of epic ones at the moment. And they don't really... I don't think they sell it anymore, do they? Is it Forge World only, or they took it off sale completely now? But I know it's a very old model. It's a very nice model. Beautiful model. But even so, if that joint's not done correctly, that turret's going off. So, with the amount of confidence that you have, I am going to say that you've cracked it. You're all right with how to connect it, and you're confident in the fact that it's not coming off. But if it was me building it, for example, I may not necessarily be as confident. Okay, so now we use the homemade pressure vise that we get given. There we go. Just to make sure that... There we go. So we have him holding his hand out, trying to force choke someone. And he is using his axe behind him. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You're going into battle. Let's put my hand out first. The Scorpion. Now that looks more like the standard grav tanks now, where it's got the kind of swooping wings around it, hasn't it? Which is where I was getting confused. But the turret was right that I had in my head. It was just the layout of the chassis. It doesn't have what is essentially the Wave Serpent chassis. There you go. So you just take the turret off and he doesn't get to break. Awesome. See, that's ingenuity. That's thinking, yeah, we don't want to glue this on. We want to be able to take it off, store it nicely, and not break the damn thing. So at least when they've scaled it up and thought about it. That's nice of them. Unless you've scaled it up yourself. Yeah, I like the nice swoopy things that the new Eldar ones have, but I don't like Eldar. There's something about Space Elves that just doesn't sit properly with me. I'll more than happily face them and play them across the table and let them sit there rolling the fate dice and kicking my backside. But I don't want to collect them. And certainly don't want to paint them because they are so neat and clean and tidy, and it's it's not an army that's jumped out at me. My first army was Dark Eldar, which might have something to do with it, because they really didn't. I really didn't like painting them. Too many spiky bits, and I've jumped on without actually following the numbers, haven't I? So I did, as it said there. I put the Stormbolter and the hand in, which was 8 is the arm, 10 is the hand, 9 is the other half of the Stormbolter, and then they make up his arm there, like I did a moment ago. Then, well, it's telling us to put the shoulder pads on, which are 11 and 12. Oh no, sorry, shoulder pad 1, which is 11, 12, which is the axe, and then 13, which is the shoulder pad above the axe, which is the plain one. Right. So the one with his Librarian skull shoulder pad is the one that goes over the Stormbolter shoulder. I mean, does it have to? Can I vary it up if I want to? I want to put them on the other sides. Yeah, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with those type of space elves. Although those space elves do sound a lot better to me as well, don't worry. It's not just you that thinks space elves from the other side of the moon that have taken over from the National Socialist parties. It sounds like an absolutely hilarious idea to me, but I'm odd, so it doesn't count. So you can swap the shoulder pads around. I've just realised you shouldn't because of tactical markings and chapter markings. So when I wish to put the HQ transfer onto him, I will need this shoulder pad available. If it wants to go on, come on, you son of a plastic creep person. Yeah, I know, I'm using Warhammer terminology to shout at my models. There we go. 2 shoulder pads, and that hurt. So you're going to rid the planet of all goblins. Remind me to hide mine. I prefer goblins to Eldar. They're just so much funny. So funny. Any army that can turn around and gonna go, right, we're gonna turn our smallest little models into ammunition. Yeah, they've definitely got an okay in my book. And for those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the shock attack gun from the Orcs, which fires tiny little Gretchens through a portal, through a tunnel through hell, unprotected, into the middle of your armor, or your tank, or your building, or your head. If you're lucky. If not, the mech's teleporting himself, and he's considerably bigger and stronger than the little Gretchens. Now, the tiny little bit of sensei is a skull with a bullet hole through its head, where the actual nub bit is bigger than the thing I'm trying to put in, so it's going to be funny. All right, so you're playing one of those type of elves. A true elf with the arrogance and the self-importance that an elf should have. Because after all, they are the long-lived, the grown-ups of the planet, sick of watching the smaller races run around and mess up all the hard work that they've been working on for centuries. It's just not cricket. So there we go. We have one finished and put together librarian. To a degree, I'm going to have to sort out that leg, I think. Maybe put a bit of glue under it and just hold it down so it stays in position there. So we have a librarian, we have a captain, we have a librarian, and we have some Infernus Marines so far for Space Marines. That's a little force, at least. It's a little force. It is pretty much the combat patrol. Yep, arrogance to the max. Because if you're throwing it in with that lot as well, then yeah, they're not going to listen, are they? Really? It's just, we're right. You say the otherwise. Well, you're wrong. Then bang, 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 or stabby, 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 depending on the game that you're playing. Okay, so the how to paint section. Now, as I've said many times, I find this section of the magazine redundant for me personally because I have my own personal colour scheme. I paint them differently to how these do. But I will go through it just so you can see. They're following the same principles again. You paint the entire model in the Macragge blue first, and you use that as your base coat. Okay, then, again, going through all the joint sections, like at the back of his legs, behind his knees, in between his elbows and his shoulders, anywhere where he's got the little black creasy bit, they want you to paint black, and they want you to paint the rope black as well, and the casing for the storm bolter. Then it tells you to pull out the retributor armor, go over the skull and the, I can't even think at the minute, the little pattern on his axe, both sides. Paint the skull and his iron halo representative thing on top of his head, as well as the little arch that covers the skull, not the skull itself, just the arch, and the little skull on his belt down there. So they need to paint all that gold, and then and his talisman. I've turned the page and we found the talisman. So once you do the talisman, the skull on his knee, and then you come back with Wraithbone and do his face and the skull on his chest. So there's the one doing his face, which my light is just not helping me with at all. You paint his face in and then paint the skull on his chest. By the end of following their tutorial, it should look something like that. I've got a feeling you're one of them type of players, Francois, that I would struggle to. I wouldn't say hate, but I would struggle to DM for. I'm not a very good DM anyway. I've DM'd a few times. I've never actually played. I'm a forever DM, apparently. I found out that term. Not overly keen on it, but apparently I come under that. So yeah, I think I'd struggle to contain a character built by you. It'll be like trying to contain one of the ones built by me. Or, yeah, your level 1 dwarves got over a 20 AC. And it's a healer. So, a brief introduction to the Ecclesiarchy. So I'm only going to read this small section here. I'm not going to go into all the extra bits, because as I said, my dulcet tones just don't lend themselves very well to this. So, the Ecclesiarchy. In the madness of the 41st millennium, blind, zealous faith is a vital force for holding humanity together. For untold billions, belief in the Emperor and his power is the only thing that keeps them from utter despair, instead filling them with righteous hatred. So the Ecclesiarchy are essentially the church of man. and you worship the God Emperor. That is possible, Francois, but was D&D was out just before I was born, so it is possible if you've been playing since like first and second edition that you have been playing as long as I've been alive. Oh, it also covers the Devastator Doctrine in this, but we shan't be going into that, even though it's some very, very nice models of Hellblasters and nice tanks and planes and Eliminators. I like the way none of them you're actually going to get with this magazine. Even the Desolation Marines you're not going to get with this magazine. But they show you them anyway. Here, give us more money, is essentially what they're saying. It's a nice little catalogue section. Oh, they do have a Phobos Librarian up there as well. Phobos Librarian, a 3-man Eliminator squad, a Storm Talon, I want to say, but I may be wrong. Correct me if I am. Repulsor Executioner, and 2, 4, 6, 7. A partial squad of Hellblasters. We'll say 3 of them have overheated and blown themselves up. Oh, well. Yes, I was right. Storm Talon. Hey. The Ballista's Dreadnought wasn't on the other page. It's a nice Dreadnought, though. Very nice Dreadnought. Good Frantic tank. So, it just goes through some nice models on this one. So Dreadnoughts, how they work is they are mortally wounded Space Marines that are entombed into the Dreadnought. So essentially that section there is pretty much can't even talk. A sarcophagus, and it's got the head and most of the torso of a Space Marine in it. It's connected by numerous wires, so he can stomp around in this big mech thing and still carry on fighting. Storm Talons usually are support craft, so they'll come in alongside Storm Ravens and Thunderhawks to essentially help them come through and deliver their payload of infantry or dreadnoughts. And the Repulsor Executioner, the new anti-tank tank that is graph based as opposed to the Land Raider, which was the 7th and 8th edition and anti-tank tank for the Space Marines. And it does have quite a lot of weapons, so you can see it's got a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon and I can't remember what that big gun's called. Yes, the Redempted Dreadnought is still powered by crippled Marines. The thing is, it burns through them so quickly. So whereas the old Dreadnoughts could have lived for thousands and thousands of years and stayed that way, this one, the Dreadnought itself, will finish off the Marine. And essentially they'll end up just replacing the Marine each time. So if you end up in one of them, yeah, it's over anyway. You'll get another few decades of battling and the machine itself would finish you off. And then they'll put somebody else in the machine afterwards. So unlike the old Dreadnoughts where they could last for ages in there and it wasn't detrimental apart from to the psyche for the Space Marine, these ones just burn through them. They don't have... It's just too much for even a Space Marine's physiology to keep up with. So they're much harsher than the old Dreadnoughts. Now we get to the naming section. Oh, the background section, sorry. Do I have a dice? This is always a fun bit. Finding out the background of a character that you've... or making it up yourself if you want to. So I'll get a Conquest Blue dice for this one. So what is the history of this librarian that I've just finished making? 6, nice. This librarian is seen as reckless, and he always pushes his psychic powers to the limit, heedless of any risk taken in the pursuit of victory. Okay, in tabletop terms, that means that this librarian likes to use his full smite on hazardous mode. And I've just found the snips I was looking for. They were underneath my dice. So yeah, he goes full on hazardous mode, doesn't do the wimpy strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage version. Nah, he goes full strength 6. I'm going to whoop you. Just to explain that. Here we go. So, Smite, which is his ranged weapon. It has Witchfire, which is 24-inch range, D6 attacks, like the flamers were. But it does hit. You have to roll to hit on this one. It doesn't have the torrent rule. So it's a 3+ to hit, strength 5, -1 AP. So it reduces 1 off their armor save when they make it, and D3 damage. But as we've just rolled for this guy, he's a bit of a nutter. So he does the focused Witchfire, which gets devastating wounds, hazardous. So you can essentially kill your own librarian with this one. Again, D6 attacks, 3+ to hit. Strength goes up to 6. The AP goes to -2. Same amount of damage, it's just stronger and easier to get through armor. And apparently he does that a lot. Okay, so we have Nutter number 1. Sorry, Nutter number 2. Nutter number 1 sat behind the camera. Nice. And if we were to attach him to a unit of Terminators, this is where more special rules come in. While this model is leading a unit, weapons equipped by models in that unit have the sustained hit ability. So what that means is, if I put him in with a unit of 5 Terminators, they all get Storm Bolters, 2 attacks each. Is 2 attacks each? Yes, 2 attacks each. For every, so a unit of 5, so that'll be 10 dice rolls. For every 6 that you get on that, you get an additional hit. As it says there, sustained hits 1. If it says sustained hit 6, you would get 6 additional hits. But it only says sustained hits 1. So you're going to miss a few, but you're going to get a couple of 6s as well. So it'll help you balance out. But it does mean that you can actually end up with more hits than you did shoot, which is really useful. If you were lucky enough to roll all 10 dice, all 10 hit, but you got 3 6s, you would then end up with 13 dice, which is obviously more than what you started with in the first place. Excellent little rule, actually. I intend to be using it when I face the Tyranids, when I get around to it. So here we have special rules. So the first one it's covering is pistol. Many warriors in the 41st Millennium carry a sidearm, allowing them to engage the enemy at close range. These weapons have the pistol keyword. A pistol can be fired even while the firer is within engagement range of enemy units. However, if this is the case, they can only target the unit it is engaged with. It cannot fire pistols and other weapons outside without the pistol rule in the same turn. They must choose which they wish to use. Fair enough. So most standard Space Marines will come with a bolt rifle and a bolt pistol. Bolt rifle is what you use at range. Bolt pistol, if you're locked in close combat in your shooting phase, you can still fire your bolt pistols into that close combat and then make your attacks in the fight phase as well. Didn't used to be like that, but that is really handy. But it kind of used to be like that. You used to get an extra attack for it. Oh, that sounds easy enough to DM for. Just the first 2 bits, the I pay attention and stay engaged, makes it a lot easier in the first place. I'm used to playing my group that I played with. There were 2 people who would pay attention, 1 would stay engaged, and the other 3 would be on the phones because they were teenagers. Hey, what can you do? The other one who didn't stay engaged didn't really know what he was doing. So they were all new players. There was just only one that actually got into it, really. which I'm still trying to set up the Cats and Catacombs to do that with that person and 2 other new starters. Should be fun. Rapid Fire is the next one. So I know I'm talking and then I'll just cut away with absolutely no warning. Sorry. But yes, Rapid Fire is the other rule that is covering here. Some weapons are capable of unleashing storms of deadly firepower when the enemy is close. These weapons have the Rapid Fire X rule, where X is the number of shots that you will get in addition when the rule triggers. Rapid Fire weapons fire additional shots when they are in half of their maximum range. So if we come back to the Storm Bolter here, it is a Rapid Fire 2 weapon. It highlights it in that section, but my camera's not doing it. It's got a 24-inch range. At standard, it gets 2 shots. If you're within 12, you get the Rapid Fire 2, so you actually get 4 shots out of the Storm Bolter. Good morning, Steve. So you actually finished another campaign, and you played the healer. Really? I had you more of... Yeah, I had you down as a bard player. Either a bard or a ranger. Don't know why. I just thought that might be more your thing. But, level 14. Actually, when you say you were the healer, or you could heal, was you a druid? Was you a bard? Was you a wizard? Or was you actually a cleric? Because they can all heal. But there's one of them that's better at it than the others. Do we get any more? Yes, we do. We get loads of special weapon rules. Okay, blast. Some weapons... Okay, let's try saying it like a human being and not like an AI. Some weapons fire fragmented munitions that are especially deadly against massed infantry. This is represented in the game by the blast rule. Blast weapons get more attacks against units with more models in them. For every 5 models in the target unit, add 1 to the attacks characteristics of the weapon. And why have I got a feeling I've not got a single... I have got a... I have got blast weapon rules because I've got the Space Marine Codex. Most times that would keep... My experience... Yeah, that is a good way of putting it. Trying to herd cats. It's not fun. I got through it. I managed to get there. But no, it was not. It's not fun trying to herd cats. Certainly not something I want to recommend to anybody. So let's have a quick look for what's the easiest one that's going to have a blast weapon. It's going to be the Ballista's Dreadnought. That one that you showed us a minute ago. That one there. Well, luckily I have this full stat sheet for it. So if we were to use the Ballista's Missile Launcher frag mode, which has the blast keyword, normally you would roll 2d6. So going off this, so for every 5 models you add 1, so it'll be 2d6 plus 1 against a 5-man unit, 2d6 plus 2 against a 10-man unit, 2d6 plus 4 against a 20-man unit. That's a lot. I'm not wrong with being a level 3 bard. Nothing wrong with being a level 3 bard there. As long as can you take silvery barbs up by level 3? Or vicious mockery? If you can, then you're off, you're running. So the example it gives us are the barb gaunts. Oh yeah, they have blasts as well, don't they? Dumbass. So a barb launcher firing against a unit of 5 Infernus Marines gains 1 additional attack, making it d6 plus 1 attacks rather than the standard d6. Each barb launcher firing would get an additional attack this way. So it's a full 5-man squad. It's 5d6 plus 5. That's a lot. That is a lot of shots against that little squad. Good job. They can take it. Vicious mockery. And you've got an inspiration die. I didn't hand them out. You need to be engaged to get them. You need to actually take part in the game if you want an inspiration dice for me. Or do something good. My eldest daughter had a mentor, shall we say, in the game, and they tried sneaking up in it with their little familiar friend. And the way they went about it was pretty funny. So they got an inspiration die for it, but their little friend also got popped for intruding into somewhere it shouldn't have. So it can be all right, I suppose. That does sound funny, Francois, actually. Just a paladin bard, completely up his own arse elf walking around trying to tell everyone the virtues of killing goblins. See, that's what D&D is all about. Good morning, Twisted. How are you? I am able to see your posts today. I am. I'm using EV Mux this time, though. The other night I was using StreamYard, and that was when the issue came up, and I'm not sure why. But I'm using the EV Mux again, and yes, I can see your posts wonderfully. I've not got to keep an eye out in my corner for your comments coming through. Not Patreon. I don't even have a Patreon. Discord, which I do have a Discord. If anyone wants to join it, the link is in the description of my channel. All right, it was all YouTube then, so thank goodness. Right. I've been distracted by Dungeons and Dragons in the middle of trying to do something for Warhammer 40,000. I'm easily distracted, so don't blame yourselves. We are up to torrent weapons. Now, we've covered these already. These are the automatic hitting ones, aren't they? Torrent, from a flamethrower that gouts to gouts of digestive acid. Some weapons do not fire conventional projectiles, but streams of fire or corrosive liquid. These have the torrent rule. Torrent weapons automatically hit their target. In other words, you don't need to make a hit roll. For example, learn to speak. For example, an Infernus Marine's Pyre has an attack characteristic of D6. This means each one automatically hits a number of times generated by a D6 roll. So as I found out last time, because I was doing it 1d6 for the entire unit, not a good idea. Not how it's supposed to be done in this edition. You roll for each model. It's very swingy, that. Very swingy. Well, yes, there is that, Francois. There is obviously a further goal, but removing the goblins is still quite a part of it. You need that further foothold. So you've got a gnome tinkerer making you a mandolin that fires bullets. A thief has a clockwork cockroach that opens all locks. If you roll the one, it blows up. It's a bit of a handy piece of kit, that, especially if your rogue's absolutely useless, even with proficiency in his tools. I'm the same, Twisted. You can do the same though. If you talk about D&D and then you start bringing Warhammer up, then I'm just as likely to get distracted the other way. So it doesn't. You can distract me with very, very easily. Most of you notice in here I have a viewer called Ali. Very easily distracts me just by putting songs in there, and then I go looking for songs to try and sing them, even though I'm tone deaf. Okay, next part. We've covered torrent. Next one is heavy weapons. Okay, some of the most powerful firearms must be stabilized, whether by mechanical tripods, biological adaptations, or sheer brawn. In order to be fired most effectively, these have the heavy keyword. Heavy weapons are more accurate if the unit equipped with them remains stationary. As such, add 1 to hit rolls for heavy weapons if the unit wielding them hasn't moved this turn. So again, with the barb gaunts, their barb launcher has both blast and heavy. So if they stay still, in this case, these barb gauntlets have not moved. Therefore, when they fire their barb launchers, each hit roll of a 3+ will be success rather than a 2+, because they get that +1 to hit when they roll, because they didn't bother moving. They've had a chance to sit there, load the weapons in, take aim properly, and focus the fire. See, I would make you go find something like a golem core or something like that if you wanted to do that, and it would not be easy to find. Sounds fun though, trying to build a golem. Oh, can you build a goblin golem? Obviously, this being your gnome artificer, and obviously not your elf. Devastating wounds is the next one. Now, this is one that's confused me a bit. Weapons with the devastating wounds keyword have a chance to bypass your opponent's armor completely. Each time you cause a critical wound by rolling a natural 6, no save rolls may be made against that attack, including invulnerable saves. You will learn how these work later. Right, so you can't take invulnerables against devastating wounds. I think, now don't quote me, but I think you can still do feel no pain. So the little example it gives. Hit rolls of a 6 are called critical hits. Wound rolls of a 6 are called critical wounds. These are always successful. Some rules, such as devastating wounds, which is what we've just been through, trigger when you roll critical hits or critical wounds with certain weapons. Well, devastating wounds obviously works with the wound rolls. You also get lethal hits, which work with the hit rolls, which means you don't roll a wound roll, it automatically wounded the target when it hit. Yeah, something like that, Francois. So a level 5 artificer gets to build a bodyguard mount or something. If you're a little creature already, so if you're already a gnome, build yourself a standard sized dog-ish contraption, get yourself the mounted combatant feat, off you go. Aha, now we have one that's very relevant to this guy. We have the psychic keyword. In the nightmarish world of the far future, some weapons draw on the dark power of the warp, a realm of raw psychic energy. Such weapons have the psychic keyword. Psychic weapons can only be used by psychers. Yeah. The librarian, for instance, because he has smite as a shooting attack. Psychic weapons have no inherent additional effects, but other weapons and abilities can interact with psychic weapons. Keep an eye out in your games. Right. They're warning you that one because in a few issues, I'm not sure, it's not in the next 3, put it that way. In a few issues, we will get in something called a psychophage, which is a big bug with a very big backside. And it has the anti-psyker ability. So like the devastating wounds, it has an ability called anti-psyker 4+. So any critical wounds will trigger on a 4+. And it automatically wounds any psyker on a 4+. So basically means he's going to kick his backside. Okay. Next, we have assault weapons, one of my favourite types because it's so much easier to move around the table. Some weapons are designed to be fired on the move, see, allowing their wielders to maintain a withering rate of fire even as they sprint across the battlefield. Unlike other shooting weapons, weapons that have the assault keyword, such as your termagant's flesh borers, can be fired in the same turn in which you advanced. So you get to move, advance, and still shoot. And there is a rule, there's an army-wide rule in the Space Marine Codex that lets you give that to everything. Awesome. You just added how many? Another 500 points to your Grey Knights, another 1,000 to... Have you got any room left in that? Have you got any space left in that room? Because you were full anyway when I was around there a couple of years ago. And it was absolutely jam-packed with models and cabinets and stuff. That sounds terrifying, Francois. I'm not going to lie, a flying metal crab that hunts wizards' familiars and extracts the brains from them sounds absolutely terrifying. Right, now we have the hazardous rule, which again applies to this gentleman when he overcharges his smite. And hazardous weapons are powerful but can deal damage to their user. After resolving shooting attacks with a weapon that has the hazardous rule, roll a d6. Okay, for each roll of a 1, one model in the unit is destroyed. If that model is a character, which this chappie is, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. It doesn't have a lot of wounds to bloody start with. Where's Librarian? Oh, Chaplain, Death Marine. There he is, Librarian. He starts with 5. So within 2 shooting phases, a few bad rolls, he's killed himself. The opponent's not to do anything. So no save rolls can be made against. So some attacks and abilities inflict mortal wounds. Each mortal wound causes one model in that unit to lose a wound. No save rolls against it can be made against the mortal wounds. These are represented by the deadliest injuries a warrior can suffer in the 41st millennium. So because a character suffers mortal wounds, you don't get your saves against any of that. Thank you very much. Cheers, Twisted. Morning to you. And we'll all have a drink, yep. Our first drink of the day is absolutely brilliant. So those are the rules that it covers for the special abilities and weapons. It does have a few scenarios. So first of all, it tells us to gather our data sheets. We're going to need, if you're going to play through this, you're going to need the Winged Prime, the Von Rein's Leapers, and the Termagants, as well as the Librarian. In this mission, your goal is to use the Librarian to slay all the Tyranids. You can have an opponent play the Tyranids. They win if they slay the Librarian. You can also play this mission in solo mode for our practice. So, Space Marine starts. Your Librarian gets to move. It also tells you the ranges, so he gets to move 5 inches. He has a 24-inch range on both of his weapons, whether it be the Smite Psychic attack or the Stormbolter shooting attack. And you can charge up to 12 inches away. But it does warn you that charges under 7 inches are the ones that are most likely to succeed. He's terrifying maybe, but he's not evil. Yeah, walking around with a necromancer trying to make a Franken zombie is perfectly lawful. Perfectly lawful. It just sounds crazy. It sounds like a lot of fun. It does sound crazy though. So you get to move first, then shoot. You get to choose which weapon you wish to shoot with. Depending what your target is on this, because you've got your Von Rein's Leapers are your first ones. In fairness, I would be tempted to smite those little gits, just because they've got multiple wounds. Then charge them and try and smash them in the face with a force weapon. Now, a force weapon has a profile of melee, obviously, because you've got to stand there and smack them in the head with it. 4 attacks, 3+ to hit, strength 6, -1 AP, and D3 damage. So if you're lucky enough, so let's say, because ours is a particular nutter, good morning AI. It's easy fit. all the Space Marines except for the chaplain on a bike, and all the Tyranids apart from the Parasite of Mortrex will be push fit. The chaplain and the Parasite of Mortrex will be, you'll have to glue them. They're not from the Leviathan set or the starter sets. So this was all push fit. Let's see if I can wiggle his something off just to show you. I don't want to damage it, but it is possible. But yes, they are push fit. So the fact that I was confident enough to even try it should. I just don't have any nails and grip to get his shoulder pad off at the minute. But yes, they are push fit. Same as with the Termagants and everything up until the Parasite and the Chaplain. Chaplain's issue 20, so we've got a while to go for that one. But don't have to worry too much. No glue required at this moment just yet. Hopefully, if you have subscribed, they will send you glue by the time the gluable models are needed. So, providing the Terminator Librarian can take out the 3 Von Rein's Leapers, in fairness, he should be able to. He doesn't have a pistol, but his force weapon should be able to take them out and finish off whatever the smite and the initial charge didn't. And he should be able to weather the storm of their hits with him being in Terminator armor. Then you get the Tyranids movement phase. So they're assuming you've wiped out the Von Rein's Leapers straight away. And they're going to have, as it shows here, they're going to have the Winged Tyrant just dart straight across the board. And the Termagants just move a little bit closer into shooting range. So then Termagant's going to shoot at the Librarian, and then the Wing Prime will charge in and try and finish him off in close combat. If it lasts longer than that, you're having bad rolls. No worries. You are waiting for your next delivery, right? Okay, so I know some people have had it, and some people will get it this week, and then most people will get it next week when issue 10's out. So, basic victory conditions: if the Librarian wins, he carries on purging. If the Tyranids win, they consume the biomass and go look for more. Now, the bit that everyone really wants me to cover, because let's face it, this magazine, people just want to know what's coming next. I've noticed that just looking at the analytics. So, issue 11, as I said last week, we will be getting Lead Belcher and Corax White. So I know that's 2 paint issues within 2 out of 3 issues are going to be paints. So issue 9 was paint, which was the Retributor armor and black. Issue 10 being said Librarian. Issue 11 is going to be 2 paints again, which is Corax White and Lead Belcher. After that, though, we have 2 issues where we'll get half a sprue in each. Now, I've got to remember this time, they'll give us the bases in the second issue, not the first. So don't go panicking and trying to cut yourself out of some bases because you think you've missed some. So you will get the 6 bases because you will get a teleport homer, but we'll be getting the Terminators in issues 12 and 13, which I'm happy about because that will actually give me enough units of Terminators to be able to go Captain, Librarian, and then another Librarian with the Terminators should I need it. Or, considering I don't actually like the Captain stat line that much, just 3 Librarians. And then 1 with each unit of Terminators, and off we go. Francois was... I've just catching up on chat for a moment. So, Twisted, you just assembled the push fit Stern Guard. Actually, I'm just going to highlight that comment. I've never thought about it that way. Actually, push fit the model together, prime it, and then take it apart to paint it in sub-assemblies so you can get to the hard-to-reach places. That's That's absolutely bloody genius. That's told you I've got no brain cells. Otherwise, I might have thought of that idea. If not, but in this case, Twisted's just told me. Excellent idea, mate. Excellent idea. Because if you prime them before assembly, you've got to. If you prime it like that, you can zenithal it properly. So you can spray it all black and then get the actual angle for the zenithal. Then when you take it off, all the shading and the light sources are all in place, even though they're all scattered all over the place. And they're not necessarily in the orientation that you would like. It also means you're not wasting paint on bits that won't need it later on. See, there we go. So yeah, and what was first and second edition D&D? Had schools of magic like, whoops, that's just disappeared. Sounds like geometry, for example, being into number science as wizard is totally legit in first and second edition. No, I didn't think. Yeah, but I've not played first and second edition, so I didn't. I know you have schools of magic in fifth edition, but they've very limited it now. So you pretty much choose your school and what you would prefer to go down. Most people choose, I want to make my fireball more powerful, so they choose the evocation route. But yeah, I didn't think about it that way. You could do a school of numbers. That's interesting. I can't do the pegs. I need the pegs a lot of the time with the push fit stuff because they don't like me. Push fit things don't like me at all. So we seem to be going into D&D at the moment. Now, luckily, I have planned my D&D stream for tonight, so I'm going to be painting Barnabas, the paladin cat, tonight. So we shall pick that conversation up later. I think I've planned it for. Let me just double check. Yes, 9 o'clock tonight, UK time. So if I give you an example of it's almost midday now. So if you're watching live in about 9 hours, I'll be back again, but this time I'll be painting Barnabas. But in the meantime, yeah, that is the librarian done. As I said, my desk isn't suitable for running battles. It was okay when it was just one model, and I can put something in between it and pretend they run around. But now it's asking me to use full units, and I don't have enough space around here to put that mat out. And if you remember the first time I tried it and I put it on the floor behind me and tried to get this to stretch, it didn't work and it looked ridiculous and you couldn't pay attention to what I'm doing. So yeah, I won't be running the battle reports. I'll talk you through them, but I won't be running them just through lack of room. Okay, let's just quick catch up on chat. Right, that's fine. Right, so everyone knows where I'm reading and what I'm reading up to. So that's how you're running the gnome spell list. So he's limited to what spells he could use. So acid spray, things that backpack could generate as an energy force. That's interesting. So you could take things like magic missile, shield, mage armor, some of the more obscure ones that he might not always be able to take, but obviously it cuts him out of some of the other ones that he should be able to take. a similar thing twisted. I have my non-epileptic attack disorder means I really shouldn't be using these, because if I'm really unlucky and my arm locks like that and I've got it in my hand, well, I'll retract the blade first just to see. I lock my arms up, blade ends up in face. Not a good thing. So every time I use one of these, I worry. So my sympathy's twisted. I understand, at least partially. It's not fun having your arms do things that you don't want them to do. But thank you very much. I'm going to end it here, by the way. Thank you very much for everybody who's come to join me today. Francois, Twisted, Al, Steve. Did I miss anyone? I'm sure I've missed someone. No. That's the only people who have spoken that I can specifically name. Everybody else who's watching that I don't know the names of, I appreciate you just as much as the people who are chatting away. But I can't name you because I don't know what your screen name is. I'm sorry. But thank you very much for coming to join me. If you want to hit the like button, subscribe, come and check out the Discord. It's all free. All in the descriptions of my channel. Go right ahead and click it if you want to. Don't if you don't want to. There's nobody forcing you. Until that, see you all later. Drive safe, everyone. Have a good day. And yeah, I'll see you in about 9 hours. See you later. Why is it not ending? I've gone wrong. I've just gone completely wrong.